This month, we're discussing financial success, and we are also mixing the laws of success with this. And we are going over imagination. If your world is one of limitation and misery and want, it is because you have not been quickened to the realization that you have in your own mind a laboratory which is equipped to engage into the powerful mixture of power and faith through creative imagination. The only thing that we have that's missing is lack of knowledge. And if we are not working to advance ourselves, and go and find what we are looking for, we will not find it. We will continue to find of more of what we have, more of what we know, and stay more or less where we're at. Not because we can have more, because we don't decide. And if we don't decide to have more, to acquire more, to achieve more, it's because we don't have faith. We don't believe in ourselves. Can we have anything we desire? Oh, yes. Is there fear? When you're going beyond what you know, there's always going to be fear. I watch people all day long doing the same thing, expecting something different or not wanting what they have, desiring to have more, to achieve more, but they don't do anything about it. Or some that say they want to change, but yet they keep doing the same thing because they keep thinking the same way, creating more of the same results, thinking that things are going to change. They won't. The problem is in us. The problem is in our habits, our behaviors. The problem is in the programming. It has nothing to do with what you're capable of, because the truth is you're capable of anything. You have the ability to use your imagination. You have the ability to change your habits, behaviors. You have the ability to stop your mind set from acting and behaving the way it is. The question is, will you? Will you develop the habits, the behaviors? Will you invest in yourself? Will you invest in changing yourself where you can continue to do the same thing? We're doing these classes every week, and we are doing them consistently because that's the only way you change. Why did you go to school for 250 plus days a year? Because of repetition. Why is repetition important? Because after the age of 0 to 5, 7 years old, the only way into the subconscious mind is through repetition. If you're not repeating, learning to unlearn your own behavior, you stay more or less the same. Where's the sizzle in staying the same? There is none. Now you can do what you do for the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years and experience more of the same, or learn to change. I remember inviting people over and over and over, and I'm doing it here and now, inviting you, if you're watching this, inviting people to go study with me in the morning. Nobody wanted to. I can go back and everybody stayed more or less the same. Not because they couldn't do more, they were not willing to invest in themselves. They think that it's something outside of themselves that they need to change. The truth is, it's something in you that has to change. It's the way you think. And if you're not changing the way you think, you'll never change the outside world. When you're trying to change the outside world, it's like trying to move matter with matter. This is already created and it's already built for you, for your logic, for your level of awareness. The only thing that you could ever change is what's going on inside. I watch people come to classes, stay for a little bit, and leave. They do good for a little bit, and then they start going back on track because they start going to the physical world again. And then they're trying to change matter with matter. They're playing with their past ideas. And I watch, I listen, and I hear them. Then they start talking, and they're telling me every reason why it's not going to happen, or the things they're working on, why it's got to be done a certain way. They're telling me their own paradigm and program. They're not even aware. You have to literally work on you from the inside out, from the workshop on of your own mind. You've got to have a plan. And then you've got to be taking that plan and a goal, and you've got to be working it into your daily life. If you're not doing that, you stay much the same. If anybody has any questions, they can put them on the Facebook page, or you can put them on Zoom. I'm going to play this video. This workshop of the imagination, this workshop of the mind, is how we develop ourselves to go beyond. Do we have classes that are helping people change that? Yes, we do. We also have 2 meditations. Meditation 1 is TM meditation to help drop you into your unconsciousness, your subconscious, and help give you access to your own consciousness, so you begin to drop down and begin to evaluate your own thoughts. And you're going to notice there's a lot of them, groups, pockets of information that keep taking you out on thought trips to take you out of the subconscious mind. But this meditation allows you to go into it and begin to untangle all those beliefs, untangle those memories, untangle those group pockets of group cells that you keep coming out of. You keep coming out of your consciousness. And a lot of you really need to go in and clean those group pockets of information so that you can have more faith in yourself. How many of you don't have the faith to go beyond? Or maybe you do have the faith and you keep hitting these obstacles, these challenges, and you don't know how to get out of them. Well, as you come out of your consciousness, you come out of your mind, which you do every second, every hour. You're coming out of your consciousness. You must think out of your own thoughts. You must think out of your own mindset. And because you're continually thinking out of your own consciousness, the majority of that is old, bad behavior, old conditioning, old thoughts. And if you continue to think with those group pockets, group cells, it's putting you right back on track. So 1 is establishing a technique that allows you access to your subconscious mind to literally begin to untangle those group messages, group ideas. Then we have the classrooms that are teaching you about yourself. And then we have programs that we run on the weekends that are teaching you how to set and achieve worthy goals. The only way to change reality is to change yourself. We'll play this video and we're going to come back to the lesson.
Get this law. If they do, all right, listen. I mean, you've got an acre of hair there. And
yes, I do.
That was in a little tiny bun on the. I said, "Where'd all your hair go?" And there it was. That's a tricky job. All right, listen. We are still dealing with the law of vibration and attraction. And I was just talking to Tommy and Scott and Elizabeth, and I was saying most people really don't get this law. If they did, there'd be enormous change and very fast. You've got to be an extremely strong, mentally strong individual to do this. Now listen to this for a moment. I'm over on page 121 in the book. Every physical thing throws off a vibration. Everything which you see, hear, smell, taste, or touch throws off a vibration because these things, like everything else, are in a constant state of vibration. Whenever you get near enough to them to enter into their sphere of vibration, you will be affected by that vibration, whether you realize it or not. Have you ever noticed, for example, how peaceful you feel, while walking alone in the woods? Now think about it. Now the law operates exactly the same way in the mental realm. For when a person thinks a thought, it means that person has consciously or unconsciously started a group of brain cells vibrating abnormally. Once these brain cells, being things, begin to vibrate abnormally, they throw off a wave of electronic energy which moves out seeking a place to land. If it's anger energy they're throwing out, and you're not thinking, baby, boom, just like that, you move into an anger vibration and you wonder what the hell's happened. But the truth is you don't wonder what's happened. You're just in the negative vibration. And you stay in that negative vibration until something causes you to move out of it.
Now let's look at this again. Consciousness, something that is originating out of your mind. Consciousness, something that is coming out of yourself. Consciousness, something that you evolve, you unfold. You're literally right now unfolding consciousness. As you think, it is unfolding. Right now, he's talking about how people are just so unaware, and they can pick up group cells that are just floating around, and they're just getting a negative vibration, and they're off into another direction because we're not aware of how our mind works. How many people are going to go into the thing called work in an hour, 2 hours, and they're just continually unfolding, firing and wiring the same circuitry, thinking something's going to change? They're just walking around. Do you know that in the absence of clearly defined goals, we become strangely enslaved by daily trivia? This is the truth. Look around. Look how many people are strangely enslaved to act and behave in the same way. They're not going anywhere different. They're not going to become anyone different. Until ultimately our whole life becomes that. Not because we can't have more, because we don't choose to have more. How many of you are on this call that just do not choose to develop yourself? You don't choose to set a goal. You don't choose to work on your mindset. You don't choose. That's not the decision. So by law, when you do not choose, you do not make decisions to change yourself, you by law must go back to what you know. You having trouble making a decision? You're having trouble find out whether to invest in yourself and pay money to change yourself? You must by law go back to what you know. How many more days, how many more years will you continue to experience the same mindset?
How did you get into it? You get into it because somebody walked past you that was in a negative vibration. You weren't thinking, and they send out that charge of energy. It's like throwing a light switch on. And when
Now I'm going to take this exact story to give you the illustration when Bob talks about he had his mind wide open and he accepted the idea to go to the Navy. He did it because everyone else was doing it, and he was off to the Navy. Majority of people don't think. When your mind's wide open, you pluck ideas, you pick up ideas, and you're off to the races again. Truly not thinking. My life changed when I started to understand that everything was possible. That means you start making decisions to change your life in a certain direction. You start making decisions and you start to advance decision make and actually writing down exactly how you're going to experience the rest of your life. Majority of the people think it's by chance. There are certain laws that operate in a certain way.
Your subjective mind, and it attacked the anger cells in your brain. And don't kid yourself, you've got them. This lesson is something you could spend days on. And you've got to be prepared to make some very serious decisions. Now, I worked with the inner circle with what I'm going to cover here yesterday. I think it was yesterday. It was the day before, I'm not sure. And I want you to really think as we go through this. I'm not going to share something with you haven't seen before, but I want you to think. I want you to really think, because there's no need of slowing down. We can speed up. Now watch. I think that everyone should be able to say this. I am grateful for the idea that has used me. Alfred Adler said that. You know, he, an incredible individual. I am grateful for the idea that has used me. Now look, when paradigms stay in control, nothing changes. It's very important you get this. When paradigms stay in control, nothing changes. So look, that represents you. Now you are in a high speed of vibration. You're a mass of pure energy, and like everything, you function on frequencies. You can experience greatness. You can. You control the vibration you're in. You being an entity in that physical body. You are a spiritual being. You're living in that physical body.
There we go again. Explanation of mind, consciousness, the unfoldment of consciousness. You are the living thing inside of that brain and body. You are causing that body to act and behave in a certain way. But it's rare that people really know where they're going. They really choose. Again, because you keep unfolding out of your group pockets cells of information, programs, beliefs, and those keep telling you what to do. If you cannot stop and control, some people call it the monkey mind. Chatter, 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 chatter. If you cannot control that, how could you ever control the future? If you cannot stop and think beyond conditions and circumstances, how could you ever create them? Let's look at the workshop of the mind. Let's go to the imagination. Imagination is a workshop of the human mind wherein old ideas and established facts may be reassembled into new combinations and put into use. The modern dictionary defines the imagination as follows: the act of constructive intellect in grouping the materials of knowledge or thought into new, original, and rational systems. The constructive or creative faculty embracing poetic, artistic, philosophic, and scientific and ethical imagination, mathematical grouping of ideas. This picturing power of the mind, the formation of mental images, pictures, or mental representations of objects or ideas, particularly of objects of sense, perception, and mathematical reasoning. Also, the reproduction and combination, usually with more or less irrational or abnormal modification of the images or ideas of memory or recalled facts of experience. Imagination can be called the creative power of the soul. and we can tap into this infinite field of consciousness. You may say, how is it some people get ideas and I don't? Because you're not going beyond what you know. You keep going to the old group pictures. Why is it the majority of people stay right on target? Because as they use their imagination, they keep going into the old memory. And they keep grouping those ideas to create their future. How could you truly, honestly expect any different? The only difference is we've been studying the mind. So we have a little bit better idea of how it works, how you work. If you keep grouping the past, expecting something different to happen, you're playing a fool's game, a false game. People talking about this matrix. The matrix is your mind. The matrix is not out there. The matrix is in you. And it's literally the way you think. And it controls you. It controls your behavior. It controls how you think. It controls what you do. It controls how you brush your teeth. It controls whether you put your right foot in first into your pants or your left foot in first. That paradigm, that program controls the clothes that you picked in your wardrobe, the clothes that you haven't. Whether you believe you're worthy, whether you don't, to how much food you consume, what kind of food you consume. This mental programming controls every thought that you have. Mental thought is coming from the imagination. And the imagination is the workshop of your mind. The lesson on imagination might be called the hub of this reading course, because every lesson of the course leads to this lesson and makes use of the principle upon which it is based, just as all the telephone wires lead to the exchange office for their source of power. Look at every thought you've had, every thought you've implemented. They come from the hub. That means they've got to go back to your consciousness. It could not go into anyone else. Look at the home you're living in today. Look at all the things inside of the home that you have today. They originated somewhere. You could not have a thing without having something. You could not have illustrations of consciousness without it transferring through your brain, mind, and body, what you think is possible or not. You could not experience a thing without it first unfolding in your mind. So then we must go back to its source of power, the grouping, the collective grouping of ideas, going back to the hub. We must look to this amazing picturing power that you have, but look to why it's so weak. Look to why it's so undecisive. You will never have a definite purpose in life. You will never have self-confidence. You will never have initiative and leadership unless you first create these qualities in your imagination and see yourself in possession of them. This is a huge lesson. And if you're not getting it, go back and rewind it again, because you just still don't understand how your mind works. You must go to the hub for every one of your thoughts. You must go to your pattern plan. You must go to your program. You must go to the hub of the exchange office, your source of power. And that exchange office is ideas. Everybody must go back to what they know or beyond. And it's rare I find somebody going beyond what they know. They're normally going to the old memory box to create new ideas, to create new reality. So they're going back to the exchange service of consciousness, theirs, whatever it is, and they reassemble their group ideas to experience more life. I've heard people say, I'll do it when I have the money. You're never going to have the money because you're supposed to spend it on the same programs you already have. You're going to come out of yourself in the same manner, the same week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, a month. It'll be the same. More of you is coming in the same way. More of you is coming out into the world in the same manner. You can never get away from yourself, but you can change yourself. But again, that goes back to accurate knowledge. It goes back to courage, decision making, making a stand, change the habit and behavior. If you don't change the habit of behavior, you're going to the same place. Just as the oak tree develops from the germ that lies in the acorn, and the bird develops from the germ that lies asleep in the egg, so will your material achievements grow out of the organized plan that you keep illustrating and creating and unfolding from the center of your being, your imagination, the workshop of the mind. First comes a thought, then organization of that thought into ideas and plans. Then comes transformation of those plans into reality. The beginning, as you will observe, is in your imagination. That's the hub. And it's you. This is why each and every one of you has to go to your home tonight. Your home is your habit, your habitat, and everything inside of the habitat in the home comes from the originating source itself. Your imagination, your way of thinking. You got a boyfriend, you have a girlfriend, your thought, your imagination, your reasoning factor, your vibration. Attraction, what you see. Attraction, everything you bought, everything inside the house, what you see, coming from its originating source. First comes the thought, then the organization of that thought into ideas and plans, then transformation of those plans into reality. The beginning, as you will observe, is in your imagination. The imagination is both interpretive and creative in nature. It can examine facts, concepts, and ideas, and it can create new combinations and plans out of these. Though through the interpretive capacity of the imagination has one power not generally attributed to it, namely the power to register vibrations and thought waves that are put into motion from outside sources, just as a radio receiving apparatus picks up the vibrations of sound. The principle through which this interpretive capacity of the imagination functions is called telepathy, the communication of thought from one mind to another at long or short distances. You may say, what is he talking about? Well, where did Edison find the bulb? Why was Tesla working on vibration and frequency? Why was Marconi working on transferring information from one place to the next? Because they all know there was a field of consciousness. Why is it that you pick up a phone and with really no sentiment or even engagement in thought, wonder how in the hell are you picking up information from no wire, no thing? You don't question it at all. You don't question how your phone can tap into this field of consciousness. None. Zero. The majority of people don't even care. They don't care to think. How is it that this phone can tap into this infinite field and download information? Because that phone and your brain operate more or less the same. It's on a frequency. Except the phone is geared to answer your question. How do I get to Las Vegas? But you only do it when you believe. You'll only ask that phone, how can I get to Germany? When you believe it's possible. You'll only ask the phone whenever you think that something is possible for you to experience. But you won't even ask your own brain what is possible. And when you do ask your own brain, you go back to what I know. It's amazing how this workshop of the mind, you'll go to a phone and ask it for gifts. You go to the phone and you ask for information. But you won't go to your own brain that has more power than that phone to tap into an infinite field of consciousness simply because you don't believe. And nobody ever taught you any different. People all around the world, very few people, use their brain power, brain capacity, mind capacity, imagination property, imaginative property to go beyond conditioned circumstances. Everybody else uses it to go to the bathroom, to go to the gym, to go to a job they don't like, but never to create anything beyond what they know. They use the same picturing power that has created the light bulb, that has created this phone, that has created this iPad that's communicating around the world right now. That has created a home, a building, commercial real estate. Everything beyond nature that man has made came from this tapping into this infinite field, but yet very few people are using it. Simply because they don't know. And the ones that do know shy away. Because ultimately they don't believe that they can do it. Fear, doubt, worries. Go look at everything in your home, everything you purchased. It came from that same picturing power. But really look at everything in your home. How much of it came from your family? A little bit different, maybe a little bit more improved, but more or less from the same environment you grew up into. How much of your home is more or less within the same bracket of revenue, of thinking? I remember talking to a psychiatrist, and he was telling me how he lived more or less in the same city block as his father, and now his son was moving in more or less the same block as them. And he's studying the mind, psychology of consciousness, and he's telling me how everybody fell in more or less the same programming without even being known to him. They're using more of the same picturing power. So many people don't understand. If you want to go beyond where you've ever been, you've got to literally change the way you think. You operate on frequencies. I operate on a frequency. I remember the frequency I was operating on when I decided to become, we'll jump a little ahead, become a foreman. jump ahead in time, past working on the drilling rigs. I remember working on the drilling rigs. I could still go find people still working on drilling rigs. Not because they can't do more. They're not changing that chip. And that chip inside of them has almost exclusive control over their behavior. I can go back and find mechanics. They're still mechanicking. They still wake up the next day to find more tools and more equipment to work on. Not because they can't do more, because they don't know how to change that chip. I can go back and I can find people in different areas doing more or less the same thing, not because they can't do more. They don't know how to change that chip. I've met elder people that think they're too old to change the chip. You're never too old. I remember Bob saying it, and he did it. He did exactly what he said he was going to do. He said, I will live till I die. He was continually changing that chip. And he said it several times, I'll work circles around young people. He'd run circles around 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds all day long. He was going somewhere on purpose. He was creating, unfolding a new reality on purpose. You see, your mind never stops unfolding. But it will continue to unfold when you're not willing to go beyond it. It just continues to unfold more or less the same, maybe a little bit different. Maybe you choose jobs different here and there, but it always pulls you right back in. Consciousness, when you don't understand it, you become a victim. You literally become a victim. When you're not aware of this unseen power and how it works, we become victims of our own awareness, of our own ideology. Imagination is the workshop of the mind. The principle through which interpretive capacity of the imagination functions is called telepathy, the communication of thought from one mind to another at long or short distances. Without the aid of physical and mechanical appliances in the manner explained in the introductory lesson of this course, telepathy is an important factor to a student who is preparing to make efficient use of imagination, for the reason that the telepathic capacity of the imagination is constantly picking up thought waves and vibrations of every description. So-called snap judgment and hunches, which prompt one to form an opinion or decide upon a course of action that is not in harmony with the logic and reason, are usually the result of stray thought waves that have registered in the imagination. Plucking ideas. Marconi, plucking an idea. Kennedy, asking Dr. Warner von Braun, what will it take to take a man to the moon and back? Pluck an idea. And they began to focus everybody's mind in that direction. If they found engineers, they didn't think it could be done, they said, find me another one. That engineer would have to go back to what he knows. If they got to another point where another engineer they would get to the limit of his awareness or the limit of his belief, find me another one. Somebody that's willing to think beyond conditions and circumstances. Somebody that's willing to think beyond what they know, to tap into this infinite field of consciousness. Ford, Rockefeller, all these great giants, imagining beyond the state of consciousness of everyone of their time. Recently developed radio apparatuses has enabled us to understand the elements of the ether, are sensitive and alive, that all manner of sound waves are constantly flying here and there with lightning-like speed. You have only to understand the modern radio outfit to understand also the principle of telepathy. So well has this principle been established through the psychological research that we have abundance of proof that two minds which are properly attuned and in harmony with each other may send and receive thought at a long distance without the aid of mechanical apparatuses of any sort. The workshop of the mind. We've got to go back to the hub. And if we go back to your hub, and we were to go back to your hub of awareness and consciousness, and you would see exactly how you have arrived where you're at today. Not because you cannot do more, but because you do not know how. And if you keep putting off, well, I'll do it later, or I'll do it when I believe in myself, chances are you won't do it at all. Because you keep going back to your source of energy that created all the energy that's around you already. If we keep going back to what we know, you will end up being where you are. It's your whole life. It's your whole life. You may say, this is going to be hard. It'll be a lot harder to live the way you're going to live the rest of your life. You may say, this may be very hard. Well, it's going to be a lot harder to live in your manner the rest of your life. Than to make a decision to be in a course for 12 months. Be in a course for 2 years. I would quickly decide 12 months is not a long time. 2 years is not a long time. Not to change the rest of my life and the life of my family. Thank you guys. We're at our time. Take a look at our programs. Take a look at what we're doing. And then make a decision that I'm not going to go back to who I am. Send us a message. Thank you guys, and everybody have a wonderful day.